Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Jay Bazevski. He's a life coach and personal trainer with 13 years of experience. He transitioned from an IT career into the health industry after an almost fatal cardiac arrest and rare heart condition that ultimately changed the path of his life. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Raymond. Great to be here, man.
Thanks for coming on. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today? Obviously, that intro sets it up, but, kind of in
Yeah,
your own words.
yeah, definitely. That was a good summary. And back in 2008, I was 27 years old. I had an IT career I was in that career for 13 years. And one day I was on the basketball court just shooting hoops with my friends, and my heart rate started to just go wild. It just started to get erratic and increase really high. And it was like not consistently high. It would be like a few beats and then it would slow down and just up and down, up and down. Anyway, I went home, had a shower, had some food, tried to relax. And 5 hours later, I was sweating and my heart rate was still as high as though I was playing a game of sport. And I just could not do anything to get it down. And then my family were trying to tell me, we got to go to the hospital. I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then eventually they convinced me. I was like, all right, let's go get it checked out. So we go to the hospital. I get in there and then they think I'm on drugs. So that's their first thing. They're like, what have you had? And I'm like, I haven't had anything. And then they ask my family to leave. And they're like, look, your family's gone now. You can tell us, what have you had? And I'm like, look, you've been asking me this. I haven't had anything. You need to do something. And then eventually they believe me and they're like, okay, look, we can give you this drug and it's going to stop your heart for a second. And then your heart will start straight back up. And it's for people that have arrhythmia issues and this could solve your problem. And then I was like, well, I'm getting very anxious and I need you to do something. So make the call. So they decided that they'd do that. And that was kind of like the last thing that happened before everything just went even more chaotic. So they gave me that drug. Next thing you know, I just dropped straight into a coma. I was in there for 8 minutes, non-responsive, ventilated down my throat. And then my heart rate was just climbing and climbing. And then after 8 minutes, I flatlined and had a cardiac arrest. So I was clinically dead for 3 minutes. I'm floating above my body. They're shocking me back to life. They hit me with the paddles the first time. It did nothing. They gave me a second hit. I pop up. I didn't realize I had a ventilator down my throat into my trachea. So I felt like I was just projectile vomiting everywhere, but really I was just choking on this thing. So my first instinct was I just grabbed it and just tore it out, which is apparently the worst thing that you can do. So they're freaking out and they're trying to push me down and x-ray my chest and make sure that I haven't torn up everything. And then, but the thing that I remembered at that time was after I got shocked back, I tuned in onto my heart and I was like, oh, that feeling is gone. I feel okay. And then I just had this instant sense of relief. And then I collapsed back into the bed and I just fell asleep. I was the tiredest I've ever been. I was so tired that I could barely even open my eyelids. It felt like my eyelids had weights on them. And then I was there overnight and I was still a bit disoriented. And then I woke up the next morning there and it was a Monday morning. And I looked at my time and it was like 6 a.m. and I thought, I need to get out of here. What's going on? So I flagged down a nurse that was walking by and I said, hey, what's going on? I need to get out of here. I got to go to work. And then she laughed at me and then she's like, you're not going anywhere. She's like, do you know what happened to you last night? And I was like, not 100%. And then she filled me in and then the memories started to come over time. And she's like, you died last night. You were in a coma. This is what happened. We had to revive you through defibrillation. She's like, we need to do observations to figure out what the hell went on with you. And I was like, okay. So I was in ICU for 4 or 5 days and I was taking my blood every day, doing tests, ECGs, the whole works. And then about 4 or 5 days later, a cardiologist comes in, sits on the edge of the bed and he says, okay, you've got a rare heart condition and you've probably had it your whole life, but it's never been an issue up until now. It usually gets triggered with stress. It's called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, and it could come back. So what we can do is treat it with two options. We can put you on medication for the rest of your life, or we could have surgery. And medication for the rest of my life was just not an option for me. I didn't like the idea of that. And he said, if we do the surgery, we can fix it. You'll be done. You don't have to have medication after that. You literally will be fixed. And I was like, let's do the surgery. So about a week later, I got booked in for the surgery. I go in, get the surgery done. They're like, you're good, go home, recover. So I had about 3 months of recovery, physically, emotionally. It was quite traumatic in terms of the anxiety that I had. Every time my heart did a flutter, I thought that, I was going to die. This is something that the cardiologist said, is that now I'm so tuned into my heart that I will feel every abnormality. He said 99% of human beings have abnormalities in their heart, but they're not tuned into it the way you are. So they're not even going to recognize it or notice it. He's like, so you don't have to worry. So anyway, I went home and I was recovering. I couldn't walk up the stairs because the surgery was through my groin. They use these wires, they go in through the artery and come up into the heart. And so I was all cut up in my groin and stuff, and I literally couldn't stand up straight. So I couldn't walk up the stairs to get into my bedroom. So my family had to get my bed and set up my bed downstairs in the living room. And then, I had to go to this recovery period. And then I went back to work 3 months later, and I thought I'll go back to work on a Friday, ease myself into it. I go there feeling good, chatting to everyone, giving everyone, the rundown of what happened. I get home that afternoon. I'm feeling pretty good. Come home to a phone call from the surgeon. He's like, we got to go back in again. I'm like, what do you mean? And then he's like, after all of the ECGs and studies that the tests that we've been doing on you, we don't think that we've got it. And normally he's like, I would take a chance. He's like, but because of the experience that you went through, he goes, I don't want to take that chance. He's like, so I think that we should go in and do this procedure again. And then I was like, damn. At that point, that was like my lowest point. I thought, like, I'm not meant to be here. I'm going to die. That's what I thought. I truly thought that. And I was like, all right, like, we got to fix it. I can't have this hanging over my head. It's too much anxiety. So I said, when's the soonest you can book me in? And then he said, I can get you in 5 days. And I was like, all right, book me in. So then got off the phone, went to my family. I told them the situation. I said, look, I don't want to talk about it. It's booked in. Like, I'm scared shitless. We can't talk about it every day. I just need to keep it off my mind. I'm going to go in there. I've committed to doing it. We're going to get it done, and then it's going to fix it, and we're going to move forward. And they're like, yep, respect that. So we didn't talk about it for the week. I went upstairs, had a shower, turned that shower on, and then I just let the emotions pour out of me. I was crying, and I was like doing the whole why me, the whole bit. I was just letting it all out. And then while I was in that shower, I said to myself, when I turn this shower off, the emotions turn off. I'm not thinking about it or anything. I'm not going to be sad about it. I'm not going to be scared about it. It is what it is, and I'm going to get through it, and that's what's going to happen. So I stayed in the shower for a little bit longer. I just let it all come out, let all the emotions come out, put my hands on the tap for a while, and then after a couple of seconds, I took a deep breath, turned it off, and I was like, done. So then, and that worked really well for me. So I kept the emotions off. Whenever the thought came into my mind, I just distracted myself with something. I was like, it's booked in. I can't do nothing about it. It's going to happen, and I'm going to be okay. So anyway, 5 days come around. I go into the surgery. I'm like, let's go. I was like, just wanted it to all happen. They go in there, they do their thing, and they're like, you're 100% great. So they send me back home again. I do another 3 months of recovery. So now I haven't exercised for 6 months. I haven't moved my body properly. I haven't elevated my heart rate at all that entire time. I go back after the second round of 3 months, and they stress test me, and I'm like, I'm pretty scared to get my heart rate up. And they're like, this is the place to get your heart rate up. If anything happens to you while we do this stress test, we will save your life. I guarantee you. This is the cardiologist. And I was like, all right, that gave me confidence. And I thought to myself, you know what? He's right. I need to try and like break myself, because this is the time. This is where if I do still have this issue, he will fix it. So I jumped on the treadmill and just cranked it, just incrementals, just got faster and faster. I just kept saying to him, I'm good, go harder, keep pushing it. Ended up getting it up onto a high speed. I'm busting it out, running my ass off like as fast as I can, heavy breathing, heart's pounding. Did that for, 5-6 minutes or whatever it was. And then they turned it off and they're like, you're good. So had my final meeting with the cardiologist, and he's like, I don't want to see you again. You're perfect. I'm 100% certain now that we've gone in twice, we've done everything we need to do. You're totally cool. And I was like, okay, sweet. So I go home, I start to get back into my life. And then that's when, throughout that whole experience, I started to reevaluate my whole life, because before I was really taking life for granted. I would say I was doing, I wasn't happy in my job. I wasn't really focused at all. And so from that, I was like, you know what? Life is precious. Life is short. Life can be taken from you. You know, you have to be appreciative for every moment. You know, I wake up every morning after that, thanking God, you know, that I'm awake, that I have another day. And so I thought, I can't live my life doing anything that I'm not happy with. From now on, everything in my life has to be exactly how I want it. So I quit my job and I thought, I want to help people get healthy. Because when I was in the hospital and I was waiting for the surgery, I was up in the cardiac ward. There was about 8 or 9 other guys in there. They were all overweight. They were all there because of their lifestyle. They were in there between 50 to 65 maybe, and they all looked terrible. And they were going in for big surgeries, you know, triple bypasses and transplants and all of this stuff. And I'm in this room, and then the therapist would come in every day. They'd pull the curtain over, separating me from their therapy session that I'm completely tuned in on. And they're preparing these guys for death because they're in such a bad state and they're going into these surgeries that they're probably not going to come out of. And I doubt any of those men are alive today. And that just really, really shook me as well. That when I was in that room, I thought none of these guys need to be here. And I thought I'm going to do something about this, because I thought to myself, it's actually prevention is the cure. And if these guys all lived healthy lifestyles, they wouldn't be here. And so that was a big part of my transition. So I got out of there, recovered and everything. And then when I realized that I wanted to live my life, you know, in a beautiful way, I thought the best thing I could do is get into health and fitness, become a fitness trainer, because that's what I wanted to do when I was in high school. And I didn't do it. I ended up going into IT. And so I thought this is going to be the option for me. So I quit my job. I never had any experience in the fitness industry. I never had any experience in business, and I just went for it. Something that happened during that time was I guess I became aware of my intuition. That's something which I didn't have before. I would always second guess myself and question things. But after that, and even to this day, I make very fast decisions. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll say to myself, did you even think about that? But I feel like I don't need to, because it feels so right. And it's like, nah, this is what we're doing. Let's go. And that was the same thing when I quit the job. I was just like, nah, I'm done. And so I left and I literally burnt my bridges, had nowhere forward to go other than the unknown. So I started researching, and I was like, I need to be the vehicle that, you know, shows everybody how it is. So I was researching how to get my heart as strong as possible. It all came down to exercise and diet and lifestyle. So I signed myself up for a half marathon. Outside of chasing a basketball down a court, I'd never really ran before. So I signed myself up for this half marathon that was 3 months out. And that encouraged me or motivated me to start running every morning. So I'd get up at 6 a.m. and I'd start running, and it was painful. I'd have shin splints, my knees hurt, my feet hurt. You know, it was terrible, but I got better and better and better every day. And then I ran that half marathon, and then, you know, it just all kind of kicked off from there. And I just kept on challenging myself, one thing after the other. I opened up a fitness business. I became a qualified personal trainer and life coach. I started a business called SQ1 Fitness, which is my fitness business today, which I've had for 13 years. I opened a gym in Sydney. I ran that for a decade. I just closed it during COVID because it was a nightmare. But everything has just kind of worked out ever since that moment. And I feel like it's because I've just gone from just having the courage to just do what I feel is right and go with that intuition. If it feels right, just do it. Don't worry about the risks or the fears, because if it feels right, then it is right. And that's kind of like the process that my life has gone on. And over that time, I've been so blessed. I've helped so many people. I've changed so many lives. I've had such an impact, whereas I feel like I never had an impact really on the world prior to this experience. And now I just really feel like I'm here for a purpose, because, you know, at that time when I was in the thick of it, I thought, I'm not meant to be here. I'm not meant to be alive. I'm going to die, all these negative things. And then when I came out of it, I was like, I am meant to be here. I do have a purpose. I need to get this out. I need to actually, you know, if God put me here for a reason, I need to do God's work, you know? So that's kind of the mindset that I have now. And that's what's led me throughout this whole last, you know, over a decade, since 2008.
Now, do you think you would have kind of made that change or went that direction you went through if you hadn't experienced the heart condition? Because oftentimes people have a lot of, wants or have dreams of doing something, but oftentimes it's sad to say they're triggered, or a change is, a change happens when there's some kind of, grief or trauma or health condition where life is put into perspective. Do you think you would have pivoted at some point, or do you think you needed this, to happen?
It's a great question, and I think that I needed it. I think because for about 3 or 4 years prior to that happening, I wasn't happy in my IT job, and I wanted to get out, and I kept on making excuses as to why I couldn't. And I think that sometimes that external motivator is hitting rock bottom, and I think that's the pain got so bad for me that I had to move. I remember hearing a story from Les Brown, and he said that he was walking down the street and he saw this dog lying on the pavement there, and the family was sitting on the porch, and the dog was like moaning in pain. And then he stopped, and then he's like, "Why is your dog moaning like that?" And then the owner said, "Oh, he's lying on a rock." And then he's like, "Well, why doesn't he get up and move?" And then he's like, "Well, it doesn't hurt him enough to get up and move." So, and it really clicked with me, because I thought that was me. I was that dog lying on a rock that was painful, but not painful enough to move. And then, this transition happened because the pain got so great. And yeah, I think it's tough for people to make transitions, particularly in careers and their lifestyle or relationships, whatever it may be, because the trauma or the pain isn't great enough, and it's unfortunate. But I think it's almost human nature in a way. So we have to try and psychologically get ourselves to a place where we can move forward, and that's a big challenge for me with my clients over the years, is getting them to go from A to B. Trying to draw out the pain through coaching to build up that pain within them to say, no, like, you're right, I do need to move forward.
Yeah, I think kind of like it's human nature to want to be in a state of comfort, and it's difficult, but you need to kind of like put yourself in an uncomfortable situation with whatever you're doing to grow and kind of get to the next level. I mean,
Totally.
any kind of change, either physical or professional, usually people start talking themselves. They're the ones that talk themselves out of it. So I'm sure before you even, made that transition from IT to fitness, you wanted to do it, but you had second guesses right before you did it, trying to talk yourself out and rationalize, I have a job, it's paying the bills. Why would I take this leap of faith? It may not pay. I may not this, that, or the other. And we put seeds of self-doubt into ourselves. A majority of those kind of big leaps, people talk themselves out of.
100%. And also the people around you, I had a good career. Like, if you look at it from the outside, I was making good money. I'd been there for a long time. I was doing well. And all the people around me were like, what are you talking about? You're going to go be a personal trainer? Like, that's crazy. Like, look at your job, look at your career. Like, people would love to be in your position. And so there's a lot of external influence as well that I think a lot of people struggle with too, where they don't want to make that decision because of what everybody else is going to say. And so I really had to fight through that one as well. But now the mindset is it's purpose over pleasure. So it's like, what is my purpose? And really our purpose is to acquire what we admire and then give that to the world. That's what my coach tells me. He's like, acquire what you admire and then give that to the world so that everybody can then get motivation and evolve from there as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like around you also like in that role potentially don't necessarily have your best interests at heart. And they're in a way subconsciously, I don't know if it's jealous or just, I'm sure they have dreams outside of, nobody wants to do, when they're 5 years old, I want to be in the IT field. I mean, maybe in like, tech, or if they see somebody like Elon Musk or somebody like that, or Jeff Bezos. But I mean, usually it's like, I want to be a firefighter or a doctor or something that of service in a way. So I feel like oftentimes if you have, a role already that's paying the bills, or potentially like you're an executive at a company, or, whatever you are, people are like, why, how are you even considering this, decision, like following your passion when you have all this kind of already established? I think people also have that kind of mindset. I mean, the unfortunate thing, people also kind of like, I guess imprint themselves and their own insecurities and try to push them off, like especially in fitness. So when people start working out or making life changes, if you have an unhealthy group of friends in terms of eating habits or just some, let's say vice. Like, I mean, it's okay to have a drink one time or another, but I mean, it breaks down your body if you're, borderline, like just getting trashed all the time and eating junk food. So it's like, you change your eating habits, sleeping habits, exercise habits, and then people start putting you down for that because their own inadequacies. Why are you always in the gym? Why did you change your lifestyle? And I think oftentimes people kind of like maybe regress back because they don't want to like get out of it. Like, you know what I mean? In terms of that friend circle or family circle, and they get pulled back in, or it's just like, kind of like, I don't know. It's more like a defeatist attitude. And like, I mean, I've had it, and I've noticed it in a lot of people where people are like, don't want to highlight their own inadequacies and then just push that. Like when you're doing something right, it turn it a right into a wrong in a way.
100%. I've seen it as well. And I feel like people project their insecurities onto other people. And then that's that reflection coming back to them. And in relationships as well, it's important to grow together. When one person is trying to change and the other person's still stuck in the old habits, it creates a lot of conflict. And I've seen that a lot with clients over the years where, we get somebody, they come in and have this major transformation. They're inspired. They, for whatever reason they want to really change everything. And then they get drawn back in by their partner, or their partner's like, you're going to the gym too much. And, I don't want to eat this type of food. And it's a huge conflict. And then often they do end up reverting back because it's easier. It's that safe place where they can just go back and, okay. So it's a tough one. When I met my partner, Kate, so Kate works with me in the business together. She's also a personal trainer. And I knew that when I met her, I just started my business and I was so all in on it. And I was about 6 months in, and I knew that our relationship wasn't going to work for me unless my partner was part of my entire life. And so, which she is. And it's been great because we've actually grown together. She came from an office environment as well. And she used to run boot camps for free for her friends on the weekends or whatever, because she just loved it so much. And when I met her, I was like, oh, wow, like you need to be doing what I'm doing. You need to go through the same process that I went on. You need to get rid of that job. You need to come and work with me. And, and she did. And so that's what made it work, where we were able to, join forces and grow together. We went over to Peru and we did these crazy health retreats and just leveled up so much in so many ways. And I feel like if I'd have gone and done all this stuff that I've done over the last 13 years and gone off to these retreats in South America and done all this stuff that have changed me so much, if Kate was still that office worker, I don't know if it would work. I don't know if, we'd have the connection that we do. So I think it's so critical to align yourself with the relationships around you as well. And yeah, the people around you, your friends, everybody's going to judge, everybody's going to be put off when you say, hey guys, I'm not drinking anymore. Like I'm not coming to the pub anymore, on the weekends. Like I'm not coming to the game, it's, people get thrown off by that. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And I think it's still okay to have them in your life, but kind of making it clear, like, this is kind of like what I want to do. This is my lifestyle. These are the changes I'm making. And you don't necessarily, sometimes maybe, it costs you a friendship. Sometimes you may need to kind of spend less time, but still, potentially have that person in your life. But I mean, things are a lot easier where you surround yourself with like-minded people to, inspire one another, because if you're trying to do something and everybody else is either talking you out of it or having a defeatist mindset, I mean, it's almost impossible to undertake something like that alone if you're trying to make, let's say, a drastic change, especially something like fitness. If a person's always been unhealthy their whole lives in terms of eating habits, health problems, obesity, they're already potentially dealing with issues. It may be caused or triggered by something, trauma or some conditions. So, I mean, they need a support system around that. And if that's not there, they're never going to get out of that and create kind of healthy habits and move forward in that way.
Yeah, something that's really helped me, I think, is to be around people that have higher standards than me. I think that's something, if you're around people that have lower standards, then your standards come down. But if you have people that have higher standards, then they have more success, more health, more abundance. And then that makes you feel I don't want to say inadequate, but it makes you feel like there's more. It opens up your mind to, it's like, hey, these guys are doing it. I can do it too. And it levels you up, I think. And I think a lot of people are just hanging out with the same kind of people, doing the same kind of thing. And, they're not being challenged because of that.
Yeah, it raises the bar. I guess they say never be kind of the smartest person in the room if you truly want to grow. I mean, it's, similar, in business. So if you're trying to get somewhere, if you surround yourself with people that are 10, 15, 20 years down the line where you want to be, you're going to learn from them. And then maybe they'll take you under their wing. You'll definitely have a conversation and potentially avoid pitfalls, moving forward. So like in fitness and stuff like that, I mean, I started working out and exercising when I was 18. And sometimes I've had a lull where there's like a death in the family or something like that, where it's several months that I, don't get into the gym. But for about 10 years or so, I was consistently going to the gym like 4 to 5 times a week. So there's like an element of muscle memory and like getting back strength a lot faster because my body has done it so much, quicker. But for somebody that doesn't have that basis to get back, I mean, usually it takes me probably 6 to 10 weeks to get back majority of the strength I had, because a lot of like the exercise, people do it for vanity, obviously to look good. I mean, I think you should do it for health and to avoid injury, because at this point I've had so many sports injuries. And when I start or stop working out, parts of my body just start hurting, like my lower back. I have to lift and do back and do weight training to kind of strengthen that area, or like it's impossible. So I think there's that element as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, people are sitting in pain and they're not moving their body. They're not, even just stretching and going through this process. And a lot of people do have that vanity thing, and I think that fitness as well, it has almost like a stigma around that culture where somebody who's unfit and not part of that environment, they walk into a gym and they just can feel completely overwhelmed and out of their element. And I think they're just constantly looking at all the people that look, better than them, and they're judging themselves based off that. And I think that's the wrong mindset to go into. I've never really aligned myself or associated myself with the fitness industry because I've never really been that vanity type of person either. For me, it all started because of my health and, getting a strong heart and wanting to live long. And so my message, or my kind of like, I guess, perspective on health and fitness comes from really from a health perspective and a longevity perspective, and not so much of like, I need my pecs to be a certain size and, my triceps and this and that. And I mean, it's great to have a great body. It gives you confidence. You can, you don't have to pick your shirt off your chest all the time because you're feeling uncomfortable of what's revealing through. You can actually be more present when you have a healthy body. You can go out in public and you're not self-conscious. When you're thinking about, oh, what are people thinking of me? Or how do I look in this shirt? I feel fat, then you're not present. You're not in the moment. How are you going to add value to any situation at all if you're just always thinking about yourself? And I think that is a huge thing that people don't realize when they're being unhealthy is selfish, in my opinion, because it's just all about them. It's all about living in a state of pleasure rather than purpose, or rather than pain. We need to put ourselves in a level of pressure and pain, or I call compression, in order to grow and develop. And we're such a positive influence based on the actions that we take, as opposed to the words that we say. I can talk the talk, and I noticed this when I first got into the fitness industry, that I learned all this new information when I was studying, and I'm telling everybody all this nutrition info and everything, and people weren't really taking it on board. And then I took a step back and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about this anymore unless people ask me. I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to show them. So I just started doing it, and my body started to change, my health started to change, my attitude changed, my energy changed, just my whole vibe just changed. And then it was interesting because people are like, oh, hey, Jai, like, what are you doing for your diet? And what are you doing for your training? And, I was like, interesting. Now you want to know. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah. And I think it's very unselfish. It's not vain. I think it's very unselfish to get yourself healthy, because A, you can be more present in the moment. B, you can be a positive influence and inspire other people, and encourage people to want to do the same for themselves. And that's only going to improve their life. Vanity is like, it's the bottom, for me.
Yeah, and I mean it's what you feed your body, also obviously what you put in your body, and how you actually burn that and exercise or whatever you do in terms of your fitness regimen. But I mean, a lot of people, what they put in their body and the sedentary lifestyle that they sit in a chair, Monday to Friday for 40 to 50 hours, that takes away from creativity. Because I mean, there's been a lot of studies. Let's say you go for a 20-30 minute walk and then you come back, like those endorphins help you get clarity and potentially be more creative in that sense. There's a lot of companies implementing things like walking meetings and things of that nature. So I think it's unfair to you. You can't be the max potential of yourself if you're not taking care of yourself.
100% agree. If you go back to the old mystics and the old, the guys that meditate and the enlightened people of the world, there's three things that they do to get into that state of alignment. One of them is fasting. The other one is isolation. So no, feedback coming in. And the other one is long trek journeys where they'll go for days and just walk. And it's all about getting back to self, breaking down all of the elements around them just so that they're away from them, and just getting into that inner state where you can find your peace and find yourself. And, going back to the trauma stuff, that's how you do find yourself, when you're reflecting and you're going deep within, cutting out all of the stimulants. The stimulants, we're just constantly trying to create an environment or create a state for ourselves that is artificial. It's a stimulated state. It's not from within. And I think that the true health and healing comes from a reductionist method where you're stepping back from the junk food, you're stepping back from the, the television or the whatever the stimulants are, and just being with yourself. A lot of people don't like being with themselves, or they don't like being in a silent room or being in their own thoughts. They always have to have earphones in playing music, or they always have to have something on in the background, or they can't go to sleep without the TV on. But that's just distracting yourself from your true inner self. And I think that that's where all of the growth is when you reduce all of those things so that you can come back to yourself. And that's part of being in nature as well, walking out in nature, getting your toes in the grass or in the sand or in the dirt or in the ocean, and just reconnecting and just going back to that simplicity. And I think that's where all of our growth comes from.
Yeah, and I think, regardless of how you keep your body in shape, like you said, I mean, it doesn't have to be in an institution. If you're, self-conscious about being in the gym, you can do a lot of the same stuff with obviously your own body weight outside of the gym, in your home, outside, getting inspiration from being surrounded by nature, that kind of thing as well. So it doesn't need to be this intimidating thing. I personally find it therapeutic. It's one of those things. When I started working out when I was 18, I'm 38 now, and it was like, for me time, it's like my quiet time. Like, let me, with my thoughts, let me get myself or compose myself regardless of what's going on in the day. Like, that's my method of decompression. Like, all the potential anger or what I'm upset about from the day or what I've experienced long term, that kind of like levels me out so I can be a functional human being per se, and don't necessarily lash out at people or things of that nature. It just like gets me back to like a even playing field.
100%. I'm exactly the same. I need to get my workout in. I work out every single day. I do not miss a day. I need that resistance training. I feel like it also just stimulates that part of me that makes me feel a little bit happier. It takes away that urge to want to snap or, be, just angry or anything like that. To me, it is absolute mental health just as much as physical health. But there are a lot of people that don't like to get in that environment. They're not quite there yet. So I always say to people, just start off by walking. Just get up early in the morning and create a morning process for yourself so that you can start your day. If you find that you're not a happy person or you're not in a good place, by getting up that little bit earlier and just creating that space for yourself really just sets up the day. So you wake up early and you just go through a routine. Maybe you read a few pages of an inspiring book. or just go straight for a walk. You have some supplements, you drink some water. You just create this little process of me time where it's the house is quiet, the whole world is quiet, it's dark. And then you can just get yourself ready, get into your diary, journal a few things out, get your thoughts out, or plan out your day so you're not overwhelmed. Write down what you're grateful for, or your affirmations. I find that a lot of people get a lot of value from writing daily affirmations or intentions. So I always say to people, give me 3 intentions for today. Something that you can commit to that's going to enhance your life. High value tasks. So things that are high value tasks are things that are going to give you long-term gain. So it could be going for a walk or a workout, or it could be preparing like a smoothie or a healthy breakfast, or just preparing your meals for the day if you're going off to the office. Or it could be, spending time with your family, or just something that's going to give you a high value, high return, and commit to those 3 intentions for the day. And then every day, just set 3 new intentions. And it's like, if you're not drinking water, then my intention for today is to drink water. That's something that I need to do. It's has a long-term value for me. So just set those intentions. And then, people love it. They come back and they're like, oh, it was like 9 o'clock and I was tired at the end of the day and I didn't want to do it. But my intentions, one of them was to get that workout done. So I just did it, and I'm so glad I did. So I think that goes a long way as well. Just setting that time up for yourself, having that little morning routine. I call it the morning process. So, I get up early. I get up at 4:50, and, have my supplements and my water and stuff. And then I do a little, few pages in a book, just find some quotes or something that's going to just trigger me and inspire me. And then I'll write in my journal, and then I'll do a little morning pump, just a little body weight pump. And it's not so much to, get muscles. It's more to stimulate that part of my brain where I'm feeling positive for the day. I don't wake up angry or upset or frustrated from the day before or something on my mind. So I just go straight into just even a couple of sets, like 20, 30 reps of burpees or push-ups or body weight squats, just body weight stuff, just something that's going to elevate your heart rate, get the blood flowing. It does wonders for the day. It's not part of my workout. It's just my morning pump just to get the day started. And then, go into my day. I go into my work and what I need to do. And, just having that little bit of space for myself, I think is a really great way to set up the day. I think everybody should do that. That's something that I recommend to everybody, is to have your morning process.
Yeah, or do smaller things. You don't have to structure it like this intimidating thing. Like, I'm going to do an hour in the gym. If you're going food shopping, you see people circling a parking lot and looking for the first space in the lot for the store. Why not just get the furthest spot and get an extra 1 or 2 minutes in walking in the store and 1 or 2 minutes out? I mean, that's already 5 minutes. It's really better than nothing, and at least it's a start. So starting somewhere is better than nothing. It's one of those things where if you're just thinking about it and not doing it, well, you're still in the same place. If you do something in small incremental gains, eventually they'll add up. I mean, it took a while to get to a certain weight in terms of, free weights and lifting and that kind of stuff, and really understanding or figuring out my body and what it reacts to and the way it plateaus, what I need to change around, like what should I eat, it's everything's a process regardless of what you do, and figuring it out, what works for you best in your life, I think is key as well.
Yeah, it really is. And it's just mindset. It is a process, and it really comes down to mindset. And in today's day and age, you can jump on YouTube and you can learn anything that you want to learn. If you want to learn how to get into the gym and not feel like a clown, what to do, then it's all there on YouTube. It's all free. We just have to be resourceful and seek it out. And that's where I say it's the mindset, because you can either have this defeatist victim mindset, or you can have, the victor mindset. And that's where you have to look back in your past experience as well, because a lot of people do have trauma in their lives and they don't use that to create their purpose or their power from that. So I've created my power from my pain. And so if you've got, everybody does, we've all got shit that's happened in our lives. And how can you use that to reinforce yourself and to say, look, I've come through this and I'm the victor, and I'm going to continue to be a victor. And so, it's definitely a mindset shift. And then once you have that mindset, then you do start seeking out to learn and grow and become more and research and just enhance yourself in every day, in every way.
Yeah, I agree. So what's one piece of advice you could leave with the audience, personal or professional?
I think from a personal level, I think it all starts with your health. If it's a professional thing, it still all starts with your health. I think that the foundation of any success in your life comes from your healthy habits and who you are as a person, because you're not the IT guy, you're not the podcaster, you're not the personal trainer. You're you. You're underneath that. You have to be good at being you. If you're not good at being you, then you're going to be a shitty IT guy, and whatever your career is, you're just going to be shitty at that because you're shitty at being you. So I think that that's the best advice I can give, is to start out by fixing yourself the best you can. Create that space for yourself, create that lifestyle for yourself where you come first, you're the priority. And then I think that, and you do that by creating those processes, having those intentions, journaling, creating the space for yourself, walking in the morning, doing the things that may be a little bit painful, but it's purpose over pleasure. That's the mindset.
Yeah, being the best version of yourself, or at least, one thing, be better tomorrow than you were today, kind of whatever that is in terms of building yourself up. I mean, oftentimes, because the internet and everything else show people that they're motivated or they're just like that hustle mindset 24/7. It's not the case. You consistently have to keep yourself going and reinventing yourself and kind of upgrading yourself. So I think that's key as well.
Yeah, everyone thinks that, I wake up with all this motivation and because I exercise every day, and, some days I just totally don't want to do it, but it doesn't matter because I'm choosing my purpose. I'm not making my decisions based off how I feel, because my emotions come from the actions I take. It's not the other way around. A lot of people take their action based off the emotions that they feel. So it doesn't matter what my emotions are in the morning or any part of the day. I take the actions that I know will stimulate the right emotion. So it's just a perspective.
Yeah, I agree. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you or anything else you have going on?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram. So the best place to sort of check out my life and what I'm doing is through there. And that's at SQ1 Fitness, AUS. And you can check out my website if you want to look at my programs and what I'm doing there. And that's SQ1Fitness.com.au.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
No worries, Raymond. Thanks for having me, man.